Welcome to Skater Creator, where we explore how skateboarding shapes creative minds. Today, I'm joined with Scott Shantz, radio host and storyteller, who brings over 20 years of broadcast experience, deep passion for music, pop culture, and skateboarding. Scott, how's it going?
Great, man. How are you? I love that you're doing this. I think this is such a fun thing, and I'm super excited for the conversation and to catch up, and of course to talk about skating, because I know how much that's influenced both of us. So yeah.
So we met 15 years ago.
Yeah.
My first memory of talking to you, you kind of expressed your love for Battle of the Barracks and how the game of skate is like the rawest form of skateboarding. Yes, people can do mega ramps, but it really comes down to a game of skate.
I remember that. I remember us talking about that, and the Barracks obviously has gone through its ups and downs in skate culture. But I think, I grew up skating. I think I started skating when I was maybe 12 or 13. And from those years up until maybe 20, it was the only thing that I did. Every day, just with your core group of buddies and stuff. And of course then got job and life and marriage and all of those things like all of us do. And skateboarding kind of takes a back seat, but it always has this influence in your life, which I'm sure we'll get to. But when life took over and it's I can't go skate and I can't keep in touch with skating because skating really ramped up with social media, right? There's so much. And the thing at the Barracks is when they first launched it, they had the Fight Club rule that it was you always film at the Barracks. Rule number 2 is you always film at the Barracks. And I think of all the sort of features that they had going, I think every day they posted some new, whether it's a trick contest or a feature on a skater or whatever, skater dice or whatever. Battle at the Barracks was the one that I think resonated the most because I never got very good at skating, I think a lot of us. And there's something about flat ground that just, it was like that. It's skating in its purest form. Ramp skating and pool skating and street skating, obviously, I think are the best, most creative things. But flat ground is just, it's the most level playing field. And to see people, do the type of tricks that they do. And it also showed, I think what I liked about it was it showed how much fun you could have with just a board and a friend,
That's honestly one thing I absolutely love about skateboarding. You and I both snowboard. I love snowboarding too. I'm more of a skateboarder who goes snowboarding in the winter to make it through the winter. I grew up in Calgary, so the winter is more of a thing. But it's just, you just grab your board and go. It's not a big process where snowboarding, it's you got to get your gear, you got to get in the car, you got to drive to Whistler. It's a whole day thing. You need your lunch. And so a game of skates is exactly that. It's so simple, but also it's still so hard. Yeah,
where I grew up, we lived in a cul-de-sac, and I think that kind of became the place where everybody just kind of congregated. And of course, we had built our own ramps and everything. But yeah, you're totally right. It was the type of thing where it's I've got half an hour or whatever. I'll just go skate or stand out on the curb or sit on the curb with my buddies, or I'll just skate for 15 minutes, or you always kind of have your board in the trunk and you're cruising, you got a few minutes. Oh, I see a curb right there, or a stair set or whatever. And you can kind of fit it in, except that once you become an adult, you have to actually schedule it in, right? If I'm going to go and skate, it means that I don't have time to nap or read, whatever else it is that I'm doing.
You are speaking dad language right now.
Yeah,
I don't have time to nap. That's priority.
Yeah, totally. But no, you're right, man. The idea of being able to just grab your board and go. I think that that, you look at these other sports like snowboarding, you're right. You have to go to a mountain and the weather has to be right. And there's so many other, I think, sports that, and we all love sport. You and I both love hockey. You have to have a rink and a team and stuff. The thing that made skating for me was it wouldn't really matter where you were there skating. There was something that you could take and make it into skateboarding. I remember I was actually having this conversation with my dad because we were going through old photos and saw this photo of a house that he used to live in where there was a 2-foot wide path through the lawn, and the roads were all gravel and stuff. And so from the house to the gravel road, was lawn, and then there was like a 2-foot wide path. And I remember that I'd spend hours just like putting my brother's board up and just like ollieing over it and doing tricks just on this 2-foot wide path, right? And it's like, you just take this and this is what you have, so this is what you skate, you know? Or you could go and like look at, I mean, you'll know this. When you're walking through downtown, it's like, oh, here's the new library or whatever. And people look at it as this architectural thing. And we look at it as like, oh, okay, like that stair into like over that block, you know, or like if you came this way, you could like go over the handrail and over the stairs. Like we couldn't, but I picture like pros doing that. And you see, I think you just see, and I think that's the best thing about skateboarding is you see the world in a different way because of it.
And you can't unsee it. Once your brain is there and like that, you cannot unsee it. You know, there's that like famous meme where there's the guy looking back and holding his girlfriend's hand.
Yes.
And that is me all the time. I'll be like driving or whatever, like, oh, or whatever. And she'll be like, what? And it took her a while to realize I'm not checking out other girls. I'm looking at like stairs or a skate spot. And same thing, even though I'm not like actively skateboarding on the streets every day anymore, it's just my brain is wired that way. And I feel once it was unlocked and I had the knowledge to look at other problems in real life that way. I have a work problem or I have a problem with my kids. You can look at it a different way. Skateboarding is not linear. As soon as you think you have it figured out, somebody starts skateboarding up the stairs or whatever.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on something that, again, like I think skateboarding is still the coolest thing that there is. I don't think there's like a cooler hobby or sport or whatever. And because of all of these things that we're talking about, like even in the like realm of the pro, like most respected skaters, like anyone who's in the culture will know that like there's contest skating, you know, where these guys are making like X Games and going to the Olympics and stuff. And then there's like the best skaters in the world who would never do that, you know, like have no aspirations to do that because while they're doing the same thing, like it means something different to them. And I think that those guys, those two sides are not in opposition. I think like those people get along and are often on the same teams or whatever. But it just showcases that like skateboarding can be all of these different things to people. For one person, it can be like athletics and training and like going to Nike University or whatever. And for someone else, it's like, and like alcohol and diving and like that, and like I think it flows through those things. It connects all of these pieces of life. And yeah, like to your point, like once you have it, or once you've seen the world that way. But like I'm interested in how you say it like helps you tackle problems, because I've been thinking about this. You know, like there have been a few things that have sort of like popped up in pop culture where it's like, you know, well, Thrasher has this thing called My War, right? It talks about like guys who took like 2 years to get a trick or whatever. And skateboarding, like it gives you that. It's like, oh, well, I'm not just going to quit because I didn't get this thing after 100 tries. Like you keep going until you get it. And like, yeah, it's like, I think maybe it was Jerry Seinfeld that was like, those skateboard kids are going to be all right because they're like, they don't know how to quit. And it's true.
Yeah. I think the skateboard world is so misunderstood from the mainstream. And my hope with all of this is actually to lift up and encourage people who are skateboarding, or maybe parents where their kids want to get into skateboarding, because there is kind of like this negative outlook on skateboarders. Maybe that was just when we were growing up. Maybe it's different.
My parents had that. They were like, I remember them being like concerned that I was getting into skateboarding.
So I grew up in the church. I had an idea, and we brought it to our pastor, and it was at a Baptist church. It's like, we need to do like a skateboard camp. And he was like, my son got into heroin because of skateboarding. It's the devil. But what you were saying kind of early, so many things that you were saying earlier, like the inclusion, like if I go to a skate park now, I haven't skateboarded in probably 8 months, and I'm trying a kickflip and it's taking me half an hour. Like when I do it, the really good guys are like, yeah, he got it. Like, it's different. There's so much inclusion, and everyone's rooting for everyone. Even if you watch like the professional, like even the Olympics or X Games or SLS, whatever the competitions are, everyone's cheering for everyone. If they got their trick, everyone's hyped. And I think that's so unique.
Yeah, man, I love that about it. Like all of these things that we're talking about. So, and I mean, I know this, it's supposed to be like you interviewing me or whatever, but just a conversation or whatever. Like I had this conversation. I don't know if you've heard of this book. It's called Thank You Skateboarding. And it's like, you can get it on Amazon. It's like by a guy like us who like made this thing about all the wonderful things that skating has given him.
Yeah, he was on 9 Club.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, let me.
So what I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think is the best thing that skateboarding has given you?
So many things. I just wish it was unlocked in my brain earlier, and that I could have realized I can achieve anything had I tried. For example, I was into photography because of skateboarding. So I have like my photography career and technical abilities and creative eye because of skateboarding. So what happened was I was the worst skateboarder in my group. Everyone was good, so I was the camera guy. So that was grade 7 and 8. It wasn't until 2000 or 2013 or whenever I got married, and we were on our honeymoon where Eliza, my wife, was like, you know, you could just like be a photographer full time and like figure it out. And I was like, no, you can't. But it was like the same as skateboarding. Like, had I had known that in grade like 9 or 10, that I could have figured out any problem. So like the way a skateboarder's mind works is like, I want to go do this trick, and you do it until you either get so hurt you stop, or you do it, and there's nothing else in between. An example was I was skateboarding and I wanted to learn bowl, which is kind of like a half pipe, but like in the shape of a bowl, and it came from pool skating. And the park at Metrotown actually has pool coping all around it, which I've never like done or been good at. And I was doing it one summer and fell from the top of like the deep end on the coping to flat and broke my arm. Went to the hospital, got a cast, and I went straight back to the skateboard park to at least drop in, do a rock and roll, so that I wouldn't be scared of continuing to do it, and just to prove to myself that I could do it. If I had that like mental knowledge previously in like business or relationships or with my kids, like you have to be delusional to break your arm and go straight from the hospital back to the park to do what you did breaking your arm. And that's what it takes to run a business in my eyes. Like whether it's running the hair salon or running my photography business, like you run into issues that make you want to quit every single day. Like with the hair salon, it was COVID, global pandemic shut us down. During that time, there was a wave of like break-ins and window smashings. We had our windows broken like 8 times.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
We wanted to quit so bad, but we were able to build it up to a point where we were able to sell it for a profit, and it was great. But you have to be delusional to run your own business because it's so hard, and you got to believe in yourself. So for me, I think that is it. I just wish the knowledge was unlocked before my 30s.
Yeah. But I mean, you have it now, you know?
Now, and so now I have 40 years to utilize this knowledge before.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think that I love that. And I think that there's this, I think one of the things that as I was sort of thinking through that, like, I think that skating gave me the ability to really kind of like go my own way, you know, and to not really care what other people thought. And I think that has like carried over into a lot of the things that I do now, and even like how I parent and stuff. Because the years that I started skating, like it had just gone through a phase of cool, and now it was like uncool, you know? Mm-hmm. But I loved it, and I remember getting ragged on in elementary school and high school, like for the way that I would dress, and it was always like, oh, stupid skaters, skater punks or whatever. And like, but the thing is, me and like this small crew that we had, like embraced that, and it just became like the identity of like not caring about what your identity is. Like there really was this freedom, and there's almost like, and I do agree with you that like I want skateboarding to be more understood, and I think that there's definitely wisdom and benefit in that. But I also think that like it taught me about like self-acceptance, and just you should just do what you want to do, and there will be people who don't get it, and that's totally okay. like that doesn't have anything to do with your fulfillment or your, and like you say, when you get a win, whether it's a bit like you land a trick or like, you know, you get something for the first time or whatever, the people who matter celebrate it and the people who don't, like, don't get it. And that's totally fun. Like I could care less if somebody was like, what was that trick you did? I don't even know what that was. Like, but I needed my friends who skate to see it. You know, I wanted them to see like, oh, look at, I like got my first 3 flip or whatever. And so like the ability to go somewhere and like, you know, people are like looking at you or maybe not understanding or whatever and not worrying what other people think, that I think that to me was like the big unlock, that it was like I can sort of move through the world like almost bulletproof, you know, that you just feel like, and there was something about skating that it was so like anti. And then when the world kind of like, you know, in the early 2000s, skateboarding became cool again. And most people who skated were already onto something else, you know, like onto another progression of skateboarding. And like it just, that like, and of course there were other parts of culture. I think culture is so influenced by skateboarding, but there were other parts of culture that were like moving on and skateboarding just didn't care. You know, like I think you and I have talked a lot about Thrasher and Jake Phelps, like the editor of Thrasher and stuff. And like, I love him. I think all the things that he has given to skateboarding. But like, you know, you and I talk about like what skateboarding has given us. Like, I love this quote from him where he's like, skateboarding doesn't owe you shit. Like skateboarding owes you like a scraped knee and a twisted ankle. Like skateboarding doesn't owe anyone anything. Like in like loving skateboarding, I also kind of was like, I don't know any of these people anything. And I think like then when you go from that into whatever pursuit you take on, whether it's like art or writing or whatever it is,
broadcasting.
Like, yeah, totally. Like as long as I'm doing what I feel I want to, I don't like owe people anything, you know, like it's a job and you have to pay the bills and all of that. But like the truest thing was, it was just like being true, you know, like I remember another friend said to me like, and I get that skaters, like I listened to a podcast with like Rob Dyrdek on Nightclub and he was like, oh, skaters are the most like gatekeepy, like, you know, quick to like, they're the most hate-filled hater group. But the thing that I love, like they're also in my mind, like the most authentic, like you can spot a fake, like you and I have talked about this, like the media has never portrayed skateboarding right. Never, you know, because I don't even think that you can, you know, like on my Facebook feed, a clip from the DC video, like the old DC video came up and in it, like Anthony Van Engelen is carrying his board by the truck. Right? Yeah. Which we know is like a bad, right, it's a bad move. But right away, you know, you see him doing it, even if he's not skating, you know that it's like, this guy gets a pass because there's just something about, he's real and the other person isn't, and you can't say why, but it just is. And I think like what I'm trying to say is skateboarding gave me that, like just be real and be true to you, and the rest doesn't matter, you know, and that, like, it's freedom. That's freedom.
Yeah. One of my favorite skateboarders, but quotes, was Ray Barbie talking about how saxophone is punk. And it's for that exact reason. He's like, I like jazz and saxophone. And if you don't like it, who cares? I like it. That is not a direct quote, but like that's what he's talking about. And that's exactly it. And now Ray Barbie is like this amazing photographer, musician, jazz musician, multi-instrumental.
Yeah, he just put out a book, eh? Did you see that?
Yeah, I haven't bought it, but I saw it on social the other day. Yeah. All black and white, really cool photography. And that's just it. If you like saxophone, rock it.
Yeah.
If you like hip hop, if you like metal, if you like crocheting, who cares? And I think now the skateboard world is so much more open to that. The amount of like women's skateboard clubs or LGBTQ plus skateboard clubs or teams. And I think it's just so amazing to see. And I feel skateboarders embody like a respectful world way better than politics or regular culture.
I think I agree with that. I think that if you go into it like respectfully, like if you respect, and you know, it's so funny how social media has like changed and like influences the way that we interpret these things. But like you see videos of like, you know, Karens or adults or like moms at the skate park who get frustrated and yell at kids. And of course, they're like, get the fuck out of here. But then you see the ones who are like, oh, hey, like, I don't understand any of what you're doing, but like, do you mind if my kid tries skateboarding with you? And everyone's like, of course, like, cool, like, bring it. We love it. Thank you for being kind, you know, but I love that there's this, like you and I both have a love for punk and all things punk and stuff. There is this like skate or die piece of it as well. That was just like the whole thing of skateboarding. And like Eric Costin, who's also, we've talked about him, one of my favorites. He's like the very premise of what we do is illegal. You know, and like there's multi-million-dollar companies basing this whole thing around this process of like doing it and not getting caught, you know, and trying to like infiltrate the world. And there's a thing that I like about that as well, that, you know, the 1%, the world, these corporations build cities and roads and all of these things like to keep the system going. And I'm not trying to be all like anti-establishment or whatever, but skateboarding helps you like look at that, like this is the way the world works and we can use it for something else. We don't have to, like, it's there and we're not going to move it. This giant like staircase and flat area, like plaza or whatever, we're not going to be able to move that, but like we can use it the way that we want to, whether they like it or not. And you know, the whole thing of skate stoppers versus like non-skate stoppers, and like, you know, there's a word for that. It's like called like invasive architecture or something that people like use to like stop people from like sitting on benches,
like homeless people sleeping on benches.
Yeah, exactly. And skateboarding is just so like, what the fuck? Like, why? You know.
What I love about that is the skateboarder's ability to be like, I don't care, I'm gonna figure it out anyway. And there's a real correlation to art and like being restricted, and that creates like better art because you're forced to think about it different, whether it's painting or whether it's music. You know, you take a look at any of your favorite musicians, chances are their first 2 or 3 albums, when they're on an extreme budget and are living real world experiences, those 3 albums, 4 albums, whatever, are going to be far better than like the 15th Metallica album, which is just whatever. And so I think the more restrictions skateboarders have, the more they're going to figure it out. And if it's completely like something's not skatable, they'll build their own under a bridge. You know, you have Lee Side and Burnside and FDR, all these, they're going to make it. You can't stop.
Let me ask you about this, because like, and I love these type of conversations, right? Like, so you know Andy Anderson, right? He's from Aldergrove here. He's like legendary, went to the Olympics and stuff. So he, in that last video part that he put out last year, he created this, like they called it the anti-wax, right? Yeah. You know, put it on the handrail to like slow him down so he could like hit the handrail was like kinked and curved.
Dude, and it was wild.
Right. And he basically said like there was no way to skate it unless he put this, it was essentially like a foam yoga mat that
with double-sided tape.
Yeah, like there was some people that were like, this is so, like if you need to make it easier to skate, like that's so dumb, that's not skating, like why would you do that? And then a bunch of other people sort of commented that it was like, well, no, like we don't look at people who like put plywood down to like land on a grass. We see that all the time, right? Skaters carry plywood in the truck all the time, so they can either like make a runway or make a landing spot or whatever. And it's like, well, is that how, like you're doing something to modify the spot to make it more skatable? So like, how do you think about that? Like if you look around and you're like, oh, this is like a really good example is Wallenberg, right? Like now when they do Wallenberg, they have this roller because they put this fence there. And like, is it more legit, the tricks that were done down Wallenberg before the fence was there, or now that they have the fence and they bring the roll in to do it? Or does it even matter?
First, I need to acknowledge like how much you're blowing my mind right now, because I knew you knew skateboarding, but like to bust out an Andy Anderson, that one specific rail, like you're up to date on the current events of skateboarding.
We've talked about this, but like, I still like go on Thrasher like every couple of days. Like, I follow the race for Sodi, like, because I think that it's still, I mean, I still love it for what it is. And it's like, maybe it's my break from my daily monotony or whatever, but it's still the coolest shit. And the stuff that people are doing now is still the way that the sport is evolving and constantly pushing. I call it sport. I don't know if it's, but like constantly evolving and pushing and like, and I all love that like, we don't even know what it is. Is it a sport? Is it not a sport? Whatever. Like, I love that.
Yeah. True fan. So I have an Andy Anderson story, and I think he embodies exactly like what we're talking about, like being punk, not caring what other people think. I was on Granville Island, just, I don't know, walking around. I don't even know why I was down there. And there's this dude skateboarding with a helmet. And I was like, what's that kook doing with a helmet?
Yeah, totally.
But then I watched him, and he was so good. So Granville Island near Theater Sports, where I think actually you and I probably met. There's these blue rails. They're like this round and hip high. And I think they're probably just for cars to not go on the sidewalk. He was just ollieing up, like hip high, 50-50ing, like impossible out, zero worries. And I was like blown away because he was wearing a helmet, which is such a silly thought. But from being conditioned, you and I growing up in the industry, like if you wear a helmet, like you're not A, cool, B, you're probably not good because you have to wear a helmet or like whatever it is. And he has rocked it so hard. And he is now Andy Anderson, which is like a top world athlete, let alone just in the skateboard world. And even though I've never like actually like met him, I'm really proud of him that he's just carved his own path. And
that's exactly it. Like
freestyle into it.
Totally. His style of skating is so different, and like skaters respect it. And like the fact that like the helmet thing obviously is a talking point anytime he gets interviewed, and he's just like, yo, like I don't really care what anyone else thinks of it, which goes back to my like initial point that the best thing that skating gives you is the ability to not care what other people think. And he's like, I don't care. And you see like videos of him like going out skating with a crew of dudes, and none of them are wearing helmets, and he's like, well, I do. So what? Yeah. And you're so right that like if I was out, I don't know, like at our like little pump track or whatever, and I saw somebody wearing a helmet right away, I'm like, this guy doesn't skate. But, you know, like because we're just so conditioned, even in the thing that we love to skate that way. And, you know, I almost feel like most people wouldn't wear a helmet just because, you know, like it's a bit like I need to follow what skating does, but also like helmet feels like conforming to what all of these other sports do, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. And honestly, like I probably need to wear a helmet. I've never hit my head skateboarding until last year one of the freak accidents just happened and went back and hit my head. And now I have, 2 kids learning how to ride a bike. I'm like, you have to wear a helmet.
Yeah, totally.
And then I'm not around wearing a helmet. But I have this like self-conscious thing. So I really need to just like embrace my inner Andy Anderson and just be like, screw it, I'm wearing a helmet. I just have to find one that feels authentic.
Yeah. And how do you feel about like, and you and I have talked about this before as well, like there's kind of, there was an article that I bookmarked just the other day that was like, a Nike SB is not the villain. It's like the unsung hero of skateboarding, you know? And like, obviously we were touched on this a little bit before, like Nike, like Air Jordan and LeBron James and all that shit. And like they managed to come into skateboarding because they have like an ocean of money to like just go and like buy all of the best skaters. But like they somehow have like managed to catch some of the authenticity, you know? And we see like big skaters like rocking Nike for good reason. Like, I guess, how do you feel about these like non-skate brands infiltrating skateboarding?
Well,
A6 has a skate shoe line now.
Who?
A6. It's like a running shoe company.
Yeah. So I happen to love Nike.
Yeah.
And Nike actually first got into the industry, I think early 90s when there's the Jordan 1 and the Dunk. Now the Dunk is very similar to the Jordan 1, and because the Jordan 1 was so outrageously popular because of their campaign with Jordan, you weren't allowed wearing shoes in the NBA with like 2 different colors, and they put a black and red out there, so they got banned, and that was an amazing campaign for Jordan, Nike, basketball, all of it. But then the Dunks, which is very similar to the Jordan, weren't selling, and they just kind of gave them away to skateboarders, or you can find them at like Foot Locker type stores in discount bins, and skateboarders needed a good skateboard shoe which is flat and for a reasonable price. So I think that's where they first got in. But then to actually come into the industry, I think they did it pretty right. They got the key people in place to respect the culture and the industry. That said, I totally see why it has potentially negatively impacted the skateboard industry and put out all of the skater-owned brands. But like, you need a lot of capital to run a shoe company. I don't even know if I'm answering your question, but
no, for sure.
Fan. I've had the P-Rod shoe. I like Dunks, and they have good support. Like, they come from the sports world where they have this like technology to help better support your foot, which I think is really great.
Yeah, and like I love that they let the people that are on the team and the people who are like in that part of Nike's world, they like really let them have influence. Like, I love P-Rod, and I listened to him telling the story that like they offered him this huge contract, and like initially he was like, I would love to do it, I want all the money, but I can't because like my life goal is to have my own shoe, and like this offer from yours, I don't get a shoe. And Nike was like, oh, you want to, like, done. Like if that's all it takes, like we support this, we want you to know we're committed, so like we'll give you a shoe, you can design it whatever you want. And the fact that they like, it's not skater owned, even though they have like a lot of skateboard influence, but the fact that they like give these people like P-Rod and Costin and whoever else like control of their products, But I also do think that like, how do you build a skater owned brand when there's brands like Nike that, are
Nike,
just so
Adidas has a really good skateboard team, really good skateboard program. New Balance has an amazing program. Reynolds just brought out a shoe.
It's so ugly.
Oh, you think?
The shoe?
Oh,
yeah,
I do it right now.
Oh, no. I like the Westgate model, right? Like, I love the video. Like, you watched what was it called? They just put out
The 3 skaters.
Yeah. Jamie Foy and Thiago Lemos. Yeah.
Apparently the Foy is like one of the best selling athlete shoes in all of New Balance.
Well, I mean, I think that he's the biggest name in skating right now, so it makes sense that everybody wants his.
And I also think those shoes are attractive to people who don't skate as well. I love hearing the stories of skateboarders succeeding and getting the money that they deserve. I kind of have no qualms against that, but it's going to be a select few. Another famous one is Stefan Janowski with Nike, and he forced them to give this like very specific shoe, and I think it was the best-selling shoe of all of Nike's history.
Yeah, like more than Jordan and stuff, and like
and
they just thought that it was called the Janowski. They didn't even know that he was a person, right? Like,
I know. It's such a double-edged sword. In some ways, it's made skateboarding so much better. You take a look at Tony Hawk, the amount of times he's called a sellout for doing like a Pizza Pop commercial or whatever kind of commercial he does, a milk commercial. But like, it's that money in that he's reinvested back into skateboarding. It's where it's brought it to where it is today.
You know what? I also think that I'm glad that we have these conversations, and I'm glad that like these big name guys, that they still get asked about this, because that to me is one of the things that keeps it. Like, okay, we'll let you guys like Target and whoever else like come play in our sandbox, but we're not going to give you an easy time about it, because we don't give anyone an easy time about it unless they're like authentic. And it's kind of, what the same culture is, and like so many subcultures, like surfing, right? It's like locals only, right?
Yeah.
And there's not like a locals only thing in skateboarding. A big part of skateboarding is like touring around and going and finding new spots and going to another country and skating those spots. So it's not the locals only thing, but it is a like.
Going back to Wallenberg, like they keep that ramp locked up and you need to ask permission, I think, from Thrasher to use that ramp. Like some of the spots, but not everyone's skating Wallenberg.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, like you wouldn't, like I went to MACBA, and in Spain. And it was like everyone's just hanging out there. It was super cool. But yeah, there's just this like, okay. And I like even guys like Pirot and Costin, they did this video where, they were talking and like almost making fun of each other. And they were like, get in that bag, like fucking get paid. Like I've been doing this for forever. And like I remember listening to a podcast with Pirot, and like I think he was sponsored by McDonald's, and like the interviewer asked him like for real, like would you eat a Big Mac? And he like sighed and he was like, yeah, as if like saying to the audience like, look, I know what this is, like can you blame me? And that like the honesty about it, instead of actually trying to be, it's like they're getting one over. Right on these companies, and then certain companies, like they find a way in, and maybe that's one of these things where like people hang around the edges of it, and we even see that like you hear stories of like amateurs on skate teams and people who like get into it that it's not like a pay your dues thing, but like they have to like pay their dues a little bit before like being kind of let into like the inner circle. And I think that the fact that the community is kind of doing that with some of these brands and stuff is okay too.
Yeah, I think it helps the economy of skateboarding. And there's always going to be a core side of things, and there's always going to be a corporate side of things, and I think they can play together, whether people like see that or not.
Yeah.
But going into journalism and your career, like you love current events, and it's not just skateboarding. How have you used skateboarding to hone your career and your skills? Like where's that crossover? Because I don't have a creative writing mind. I don't have a journalistic mind. You're way better with that.
I think like a part of skating, I always loved to like perform, whether that was like in acting or those type of things. I didn't mind like public speaking and being on stage and stuff. And so when I got into like radio arts and eventually journalism, I think one of the things that like I knew I didn't want to do like a regular 9-to-5 desk job type of thing. And I wanted, some of my free time and to be able to, like you say, like tell the stories that I want to tell. And so I've gotten to do quite a bit of that. And I think I'm just also same sort of thing. Like I think skating kind of led me when I was young into these stories of people like, I don't know if it was like protest culture or there was at times some like news events. I remember reading about like skateboarding in Iran, and like how skateboarding is just so anti-establishment that it's like, oh, I'm interested in what's happening in these, and that you would read magazines like Adbusters and stuff, these kind of like alternative news sources and stuff. And so I was interested in like news and the story and like the story behind the story. And like, even like we're talking about now, it's like X company is like doing this thing. I'm like, who started that? Like, how did this go? And like the story about Jordan and how like dunks made their way in and all of that type of stuff. Like I've always been keen on that. And so, knowing that I wanted to do something like with my brain, but also where I had the ability to like investigate a little bit and then like tell the story that I want to tell, just sort of led me into journalism and that being a career. But like, I think as I've gotten older, I've never felt it be more important, that idea of like, telling the story you want to tell, doing the thing you want to do, and being the person you want to be. I think I've learned that, like, when I was a bit younger, I was like, well, shit, I got to pay the bills. Like, I'll do anything. I'll do whatever you say, when you're young, you kind of have that luxury. But then when you're older and you're a little bit, not that either of us are old, but you're like a little bit more established, you learn, hard lessons. Like I took a job like for the money and had to quit 6 months later because I absolutely hated it. It just wasn't me, right? I just wasn't doing anything that I liked, and took a job for less money, like in the same industry, and love it, and totally love everything that I'm doing. And I think there's something there, because in storytelling and in like radio arts, like any art form, doesn't matter what you do, you could paint the Mona Lisa and somebody's gonna hate it, Like I get a ton of emails from no matter who it is that are left left-sided, right-sided, political, non-political. It doesn't matter what you say. People are going to come at you if you're like using your voice. And skateboarding like gave me that, like, go ahead, like, say what you want to say. I'm not making you listen. Like, I love it if you do, and I want to have these conversations and stuff, and like I'm open to it. So I think that it has stayed that way. And like, you know, I think that the other thing that skating does so well is like it takes an interest in the people behind it. You know, like when you meet such interesting people, like, oh, hey, here's this person who's like from Brazil and like, or comes over here, skateboarding opens up a whole new world and you discover. And then there's like these people who are like, you're right, that media's never gotten it right. Like the picture that we always get of skateboarders are like essentially surfers, like just this media, you know, like Southern California, inaccurate, like stoner skateboarder picture. And you learn that there's like so many different kinds of people, you know, and you get to like learn more about them and their background and stuff. And skateboarding has done a really great job of telling those stories because it's this medium where people can inflect and inject their own personality. And I think like any art form, like I get to do quite a bit of that in what I do, like you do. Like, yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think it takes like wild characters and certain like difficulties to make a good story. When a company or even like a person, like if you look at personal brands and they're just kind of appeasing everyone, they're kind of in the middle, like it's not going to go anywhere. It's the kooks who make history. And you know, you look at skateboarding, you have like Jason Dill or like all these people who are like, look there, Mark Gonzalez, who may be actually kind of difficult to talk to and deal with. Probably I've never actually talked to either of those people, but seeing them, they seem like they could be difficult characters, but they push cultures. And I think if companies or service providers, like individual people, do that, you use your hardships and the fact that you don't fit into a certain box, I think that's going to really help propel you in a certain direction. It may be hard, it may be more difficult, but if you're going to want to do any sort of change in the world, even if it's your world's small, like just your inner circle, your family, it takes a special person. Like there's some kooks out there who are skateboarders, but that is what really shaped culture. And all the people you remember, like, yeah, Tony Hawk is in his like 50s now, Cav's in his 50s and they're still skateboarding. Like that's weird. That's not normal.
Yeah. And like, you know, you think of this idea of like a 50-year-old skateboarder, but like those dudes are as legit as it has ever been. And even like, you know, you see even like the dude at my local skate park here in North End, who's like with his daughter's like riding around on a BMX and he's like padded up, like doing the pump track. I just think he's the coolest. That's the coolest shit, you know?
I love that. You know who I love right now, like so much, is this lady on TikTok, Instagram, all that, called Anti Skates.
Okay.
I think she's from Toronto. She started skateboarding in her 40s because her kids wanted to skate. Yeah. And she wears a sari. She embraces her culture of Southeast Asian. And she's not doing like crazy. She's doing crazy tricks for her, which is amazing. I'm obsessed with anti-skates. And then there's another one out there called Skate Wives. And it started this married couple. I think the guy skates and the wife was like just making fun of him, like, oh, he's this trick again. I'm gonna go get a Starbucks or whatever. And now she's starting to skateboard and learn it. Like, I'm so excited to watch those people because they're like not the typical skateboarders. I think they're so cool. Yeah,
there's a few of them, like Creaky Bones Skate Club, I think is one. It's like a bunch of guys in their 50s like learning to skate. There's another one I like that comes up all the time. I don't know him, but he's like, a guy in his 50s who same thing, has his board in his trunk, and he'll see like a gap or like a six stair or whatever, and he'll pull over and he's like, okay, this is my thing today. And like,
is he the guy who got fired from his car dealership job?
Maybe.
I think so. And like, his company didn't like him like making all these videos, and he'd go out at lunchtime and come back all sweaty.
Maybe, yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah. And he'll like, you know, I sometimes think about that like if I started now, and I should like, I'll like take my stick to the pump track or whatever. But if I went out and tried, you should. But if I went out and tried like street skating, like would I be able to like approach it differently, you know, now than when I was young and like fearful and, had a really bad ankle injury that like has followed me for like 25 years and never let it heal because you're a dumb kid or whatever.
That is my story. That's literally I've always loved how you're up on current events, skateboarding not, but you saw P-Rod was on Nardwuar?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I loved that. And Nardwuar's getting his own dunk. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah. And it's so him as well.
Yeah, he's on there because, they're re-releasing his Nike 1, the P-Rod 1. So I check every day. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but when it goes on sale, I don't know, there's a shop in town here where you could probably get it.
Where do you do a menu or?
A menu. Yeah. And I've gotten a few pairs there. I just happen to be the way my work is not far from there, and the way my work schedule is kind of when they open, I'm kind of getting off. So I'm like, I could whip by, and sometimes there's a line or whatever. Anyway, if they sell it, I'll probably look at getting it because he's a favorite or whatever, and I think the shoe looks dope. But yeah, he's everywhere, and I love that he did this thing with Nardwuar. He seems so legit.
From the eyes of a journalist, Nardwuar or Sean Evans, who's the
Nardwuar. Yeah. I think Nardwuar, he speaks to that same thing. He's done his thing and done it legitimately the whole time.
He's a kook as well. He's not a straight arrow.
He's not trying to be anything other than him. His thing is his thing, and he's stood the test of time because he's authentic.
Love that. And you see another current event that popped up this week. Tyshawn suing Supreme for $26 million.
Yeah. And you know me, I like Tyshawn a lot because, you and I, so this is the year that Tyshawn won SOTY for the second time. A lot of people were upset because they thought Nyjah should have won. And, I like both of those guys. But here's the difference to me is Nyjah's videos are amazing, but it's just handrail, 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 handrail. The Tyshawn stuff is it's so unique, right? It's he'll do a handrail, but he'll do it in Timberlands, or whatever. And it's that makes it somehow different. And then obviously everybody knows about the subway kickflip, right? Which is on the, I'm sure a lot of people have thought about doing that, but he went and did it. You know, and made that happen. And at the same time, he's got an endorsement deal with Tiffany, the jewelry company, and I think he's the Supreme.
He took his street knowledge, his skateboard knowledge, finessed it really well. Did you hear what Atiba said though? Why he won SOTY?
No.
Because, so it's Thrasher SOTY of the Year, Skater of the Year, SOTY of the Year, same thing. That magazine, because of the cover, sold so many magazines. Atiba was just it just outperformed. And it's the Thrasher Skater of the Year, so it sold the most magazines.
Yeah, and I do think that he that's his thing is he can put something down and it will I had his Adidas shoe, I loved it. He can put something down and it will go crazy, like you say, and that kickflip and Atiba is the guy that got the photo and so I like him. I think that the whole Supreme thing is really interesting because Supreme had its moment in pop culture, right? And it's funny because I had a person at work who's 15 years younger than me, and I'm Supreme is a skate shop. That's where this Supreme started as a place for skaters to go in New York, and now it's become this big thing. And they have no idea, right, about the origin of this brand that has taken over. But same thing. I'm get it. Get the bag, get paid, whatever, however they say it. But its origin is in skateboarding.
100%. And he, I think the whole thing is he got let go. Well, it got sold multiple times. They're trying to get the budget down. But they used a clause that he was doing modeling for higher end brands. And then that was what their cause to end the contract was. But what I found really interesting is because he did all those modeling contracts for Prada and Marc Jacobs, whoever else, it brought Supreme up to that level. But those companies are also mooching off the skateboard culture. I think LV just brought out a skate shoe that was $800 last year. And they're using people like Tyshawn and Evan Mock to tap into that culture. So it goes both ways. It kind of brought Supreme up, but it's also bringing those companies down to not down to skateboard culture.
No,
but
and you're right.
street
You're right.
level.
And the thing that like when I hear that I'm okay with is that like if like let's just say we're at the skate park, right? And like some people from the local shop show up to do like a demo day or whatever. And then like, yeah, Louis Vuitton with some reps shows up and tries to do a demo day. Everyone is going to know like why you're here and why they're here. And like if you could give that stuff away, these like $800 shoes like you talked about, and the right people wouldn't, like you would know, like for example, Tyshawn could wear it and it would be okay, right? No one would say anything. And then, I don't know, some other skater like Lizard King would wear it and it wouldn't be okay, right? And then there's just these like unwritten rules that like everybody who's in the industry knows, and like only like you either get it or you don't. And the people that don't never will. And that's like the cool thing about any culture. Like you were talking about jazz. Like if you don't get jazz, like you just won't. You know, and the people that do get it, and that's just how it is.
To me, it comes all down to living your true self and being authentic. And if it's authentic, it's going to work. And the amount of people who live their life for other people's approval, and they haven't even, they're not consciously trying to live inauthentically. They're trying to fit in and be somebody who they're not, but like it's not going to work. You're going to end up 50 and miserable, and you don't know why. So I think what skateboarding's really done is people can sense authenticity. People can sense it, and they can sniff it out when somebody's being inauthentic. So you can be anti-skates, Southeast Asian from Toronto, being the coolest skateboarder wearing a sari. You can also be Lizard King and be Hesh, and then you could be P-Rod and be super fresh and a millionaire. But like they're all being authentic, and I think that's the only thread between them all. Like skateboarding is there, but it comes from authenticity.
Yeah, I remember one of the coolest things that I saw was I don't know if it was in Thrasher or Transworld or one of the others, but it was just like there was just a shot of like, and maybe it was at the Brooklyn Banks, which is gone now, but like at a famous skate spot, and it was like every skater at the time was there, like every bit, like Jamie Thomas, Chad Muska, like Andrew Reynolds, like everyone that we talk about, all of the big names, and there was only this one photo. It was just this one photo of the whole crew like sitting on their boards, because it was just like these guys decided to get together, not for work or for a photo shoot or to video part or anything, just to skate, you know? Yeah. And like that even the guys who like, it's all business to them still do it because they love it, you know? That to me, like, that's incredible.
The last thing I do want to touch on, and
sure.
I think it's you positively impacted my life because of your worldview and your optimism. An example would be I might have had a money mindset previously that I'm poor and I was worried about like what if it's taken all away, XYZ. Your answer at least 15 years ago would have been, yeah, but like what if in 6 months you're a millionaire because something positive you don't know is about to happen is going to happen. And that really did change my life. And I do personally see a correlation there with skateboarding and wanting to like, do a trick or do whatever. You have this mindset. Could you speak on like where you got this mindset? It may not be skateboarding. Maybe your mindset's changed. Maybe you are not that way. And you and I have flip-flopped.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's, first of all, thank you. Like, I don't remember that. And I think that I probably have the moments where people have said things, maybe you've said things to me that have, you know, and I take them and remember them and stuff. But that means a lot to hear that. So thank you. And I think that like maybe that comes from, you know, you and I have both spent a lot of time in church, and like I try to, you know, like I still like to go to church and, you know, like believe in Jesus and all of that wonderful stuff, as I'm like, you know, dropping F-bombs on your thing here. But I guess I think that like the world is a rad place, and like skateboarding helped me to see that the world is a rad place, and like there are rad people doing rad things everywhere, and that it's also like so full of possibility. You know, that there are things that you look at something and you're like, that's never going to be done, and then a year later it gets done. You know, like no one will ever do a gap as big as the leap of faith, and now like somebody's done a gap bigger than the leap of faith, you know? And just the fact that things keep going, and I think skateboarding, it gave me hope, like that there's these challenges are coming and people are gonna continue to one up and push, and like all in the sense of like having fun and like pushing around and having fun with your friends. It's like the whole point of the whole thing. And I guess I've always wanted to like believe in that and believe that like there is the potential for that. I think that it's, you know, pretty easy to get bogged down in like the negativity of life, and, you know, whether you have like family shit growing up, like all of us had. And, you know, I think for a lot of us, like skateboarding was an escape. It was like a way to get out and get away from that. And it was like, well, if that's there, then I'm good. You know, and there's like always the potential for something good to happen. And I think that like I don't want to like waste time doing things that I don't want to do, and like figuring that out in my career. Like, you know how I talked about I took this job for the money and I didn't like it, so I quit. Like figuring out what I didn't want to do and how I didn't want to see the world, and then figuring out how I did. And like, I don't know, I just think that like talking about what could happen and thinking about that, some people might say it sets you up for disappointment, but for me, that makes my day and my life like so much better. Like thinking about like who my kids are going to be in a year, instead of like worrying, like, yeah, for sure, they could get in all sorts of trouble or shit could happen to them. But my life is way better, and I'm like a better father when I'm thinking about what I want them to do instead of what I don't want them to do, and like the successes that I want them to have instead of the troubles that I'm worried about them facing. And like both of those things are true. Like they're probably going to face trouble. Life is going to suck, but I want everything that I think about and that comes into my life to go through this filter of like, what could this turn into? And that hasn't always served me, but I think like I don't want it to be the other way. I like it this way. Yeah. So I don't know if that's like part of my personality. And like, I mean, there's probably an interesting conversation about like, well, okay, did that lead me to skateboarding, or did skateboarding give me that outlook? Or did that lead me to like Christianity, or did Christianity give me that outlook? You know, because there's people in both of those things, Christianity and skateboarding, that would see things the opposite way. I know, it just, that just feels right. And I think like, obviously it resonated with you. And, you know, like you and I have touched on a lot of things that like we both really like, and both also things that like really rub us the wrong way. And I think that like people that rub me the wrong way are people that are like closed-minded to an idea and are just like, no, it can't be like that. Like skateboarding can't be this. Church can't be that. Like journalism, art, whatever, it can't look like this. Like I F that, you know? I think whatever these things are that we're talking about, and this is the same thing with skateboarding has always been whatever you want it to be. No one gets to decide what it is. And like no one gets to decide like what your life is except you. And yeah, skateboarding gave us that.
Amazing.
Dude, this was so fun.
And I feel I could go for another hour, but
I could too, but I also know like I have a million things.
We have busy lives.
Off because
I seriously appreciate it.
Wait, are you 40 yet?
No, I'm 36.
Well, how old are you for real right now?
Yeah, I'm born in 88, 36.
Dude, you're not. Are you for real?
Yeah, I got married at 22. And you like...
You're 36 years old?
Yeah.
Right now?
Right now.
Oh my gosh, dude, you have so much time. Like, you're making me feel old as heck. But it's good. It's good. Okay, well, let's go skate. Let's, like, use this as an actual reason to go. Like, you
call me...
You want, right?
What?
You work whenever you want, right?
Relatively. Like, I'm in a busy season right now, but I got days. And my youngest, my 2.5-year-old, he's just obsessed with skateboarding.
Wicked.
So I'm excited to get kind of him out more to the parks. Yeah, I'm during the day. I'm whatever.
Are you still like in that same place on like Main and 10th or whatever?
We own that place, but we moved to Main and 7, a really big long move, 3 blocks away.
Bigger spot.
A mobile though. The China Creek Park just got redone, and the first skate park in Canada, I think. And it looks pretty sweet, and there's a playground right beside it.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
They have a parking block, and they kept the original mellow bowl, so just to like carve and stuff. I think us people above 35 have a chance. Even
just to like go skate a curb, you know, like Jason is one of my favorites, and he's like all about just doing slappies, you know, on the curbs.
Slappies have had a massive resurgence, and I love Jason. I love Jason Lee.
Well, thanks for doing it, man. And thanks for thinking of me. Like, it's awesome to have a conversation. We should do it more.
And thanks for letting me like hound you and be like, let's make this happen. Cause
Oh, dude, no, it was perfect. It was perfect. You know me. You got to follow up like
Yeah.
anyone. So, okay.
okay, I'm gonna end this recording. How do I do that? Stop.